Hey everyone, you ever listen to a song and it just feels alive, like it's being made up right there on the spot? Well, that's the incredible magic of jazz, and we are going to dive right into its amazing story today. Okay, so let's just kick things off with this crazy thought. What if musicians could literally compose a song while they were playing it? I know, it sounds like some kind of superpower, right? But it's totally real, and it's the very core of what makes jazz so exciting. All right, to really get what jazz is all about, we've got to jump in a time machine. We're heading way back to the early 1900s. And where are we landing? The one and only New Orleans. This place was just buzzing with energy, a city where all these different cultures were mixing together. This is where it all started. So, here's the thing. Jazz didn't just pop into existence because of one single person. Nope. Think of it more like a delicious musical gumbo. You had all these amazing ingredients getting thrown into the pot. You've got these incredible rhythms from Africa, that deep, soulful feeling from the blues, the big, bold sound of marching brass bands, and even some fancy harmonies from European music, all stirred together in New Orleans. So try to picture this, okay? There's a big parade marching down the street, and you've got this brass band playing. But one of the musicians, maybe playing a cornet, thinks, you know what? I'm going to spice this up a little. And they play a few notes that aren't on the page, adding their own personal touch. That little moment of creativity, that was it. That was the spark. Okay, so if jazz is this amazing creative music, does it have any rules? Well, kinda. It's more like a set of really big ideas that make it sound the way it does. Let's get into the two most important ones, the real secret sauce of jazz. All right, first up is the big one we talked about at the beginning, improvisation. This is the art of making up music on the fly. Now, this isn't just random button mashing, okay? It's super skillful. These musicians have practiced for years, so they know exactly what they're doing. It means you could hear the same song played by the same band 2 nights in a row, and it would sound completely different each time. How cool is that? Yeah, a great way to think about it is like a conversation. When one person is talking, everyone else is listening and thinking about how to respond. It's the same in jazz. One musician plays a solo, and the rest of the band is right there with them, listening, supporting, and reacting. It's this back and forth that makes the music feel so alive. Okay, secret ingredient number 2 is something called syncopation. Sounds technical, but it's pretty simple. Most music you hear goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? The strong beats are 1 and 3. Well, jazz loves to surprise you. It puts the punch on the offbeats, the beats in between. It's what gives jazz that funky, unpredictable bounce and makes it so hard to sit still. All right, so jazz is born. Now what? Well, like anything, it started to grow up and change. And as the music evolved, so did the places where you could hear it. It went on this amazing journey from the streets and parades to these huge, glamorous dance halls, and then later into these cool, smoky little clubs. So get this. In the 1930s and 40s, jazz wasn't some niche thing. It was the most popular music in the country. This was the swing era. And they weren't called big bands for nothing. We're talking huge groups of musicians, sometimes 15 or more, playing for enormous crowds. Think of them like giant swinging orchestras. And the whole point of swing music was super clear. Make people dance. The energy was just incredible. The music had to be big and loud to fill up these gigantic ballrooms packed with hundreds of people. It was literally the pop music of its time. But you know how it goes. Some of the musicians started getting a little restless. They felt like swing was becoming too predictable, maybe a little too commercial. They wanted to push the boundaries and show that jazz could be serious, complex art, not just music for dancing. And so bebop was born. And it was a total rebellion. They ditched the huge bands for small, tight groups. The music got faster, more complicated, and it wasn't for dancing anymore. This was music for listening, really listening. And that's one of the coolest things about jazz. It just never stops changing. Bebop wasn't the end of the story. It was like lighting a fuse. It started this incredible chain reaction. Every new style that came along was basically a response to what happened before it, with musicians always trying to find a new way to say something. Just look at this chain of events. Bebop was super fast and intense, right? They called it hot. So what came next? A reaction, of course. Cool jazz, which was way more laid back and chill. And then came something totally different, modal jazz. Now, this is a cool concept. Most music is built on a series of chords, kind of like following a path. Modal jazz got rid of the path. It gave musicians a lot more freedom to explore and improvise. And then, things got really interesting when jazz started mixing with rock and funk. Yeah, they called this new blend jazz fusion, and it totally shook things up in the late 60s and 70s. I mean, think about what was happening then. Huge rock concerts, groovy funk music everywhere. Jazz musicians looked around and said, hey, we want some of that energy. So they plugged in. For the first time, you started hearing electric guitars, synthesizers, and funky electric bass lines in jazz. It was a whole new sound. And here's the best part. That evolution is still going on. It never stopped. Jazz artists today are mixing it up with everything: hip-hop, electronic music, sounds and rhythms from all over the planet. The music is constantly reinventing itself, which is what keeps it so alive. So, we've seen how jazz grew and changed, but it also traveled. It might have started out in New Orleans, but today, jazz is everywhere. It's become a true global language. I mean, just look at this. There are huge jazz festivals happening all over the world. And what's so cool is that musicians in, say, Japan or Brazil or South Africa aren't just copying American jazz. They're taking its core ideas, like improvisation, and mixing them with their own local music and culture. It's created this whole world of amazing new sounds. And that, I think, is the most beautiful thing about jazz. That musical conversation we talked about, you don't need to speak the same language to have it. It's a way for people from totally different parts of the world to come together and communicate on a whole other level, to create something new together. So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that jazz has always been about one thing: change. It's built on the idea of pushing boundaries and trying new things, which really makes you think, doesn't it? What's next? What will jazz sound like tomorrow?